I was born heterosexual. I had no choice. None of us have. And when I look at the suffering of the homosexual men, not the homosexual women, the homosexual men, they've really had a hard time in our societies across the world. People tend to follow their feelings when it comes to homosexual men. 90% of homosexual men are effeminate. So really you've got a girl's mind in a male's body. I'm very careful when I say the word male body, because we're not really talking about a male here. In Thailand, for instance, all these girls, I call them girls, are taking female hormones from an early age. So they've got a body of a female, except they haven't got the big hips. The hips aren't big, but they haven't got the strong forehead like us men have. So they look and they feel when you touch them, and they talk. And you see, I'm very good at feeling people spiritually or psychically. I can feel people, and when I'm with them, I feel as if I'm with a woman. Now, I've talked to a lot of them in the past and asked them, what do you want in life? And they've said exactly what women have told me. They want to get married and have children. Yeah, 90% of all homosexuals are effeminate. Now, in some parts of the world, especially America, where they're really religious in certain parts of America, they hate homosexuals, and you really can't reason with these people. The transsexuals are the ones who have a hard time. So they not only look like women, but they dress like women and act like women, of course, because they've got a woman's mind. And even as a child, we're talking about being born that way. Can you imagine your son suddenly starts telling you at the age of 3, "Mummy, Daddy, I'm a girl, I'm not a boy. I don't want those clothes. I want a skirt, a dress. I like pink." So this doesn't go well in these backward societies. Can you imagine? I'm talking about America, and I'm using the word backward society, but we are talking about the religious in America, and they seem to be stagnated 2,000 years ago, and they don't listen to reason. You know, I'm always suspicious of men who hate gay men. They want to do violence to these gay men. And I always thought, and I'm sure a lot of people did think the same, that they're closeted gays. They just don't realise it. Well, in America, I think it was around the beginning of the 1990s, they did an experiment. Now, they signed up a lot of men for this experiment, and they gave them a form to fill in. And one of the questions on the form was, do you hate gays? And another question is, do gays matter to you at all? And the ones who said they hated gays, it turns out they are closeted gays themselves. So what happened? After filling out the form, they then attached all of these electrodes to their body, to their heart, and to their sexual organs and things. And then they started flashing up photos on a screen to each individual, and of flowers, of sexy women, and of other things as well. Then they flashed up a photo of 2 gay men doing it, and it was found that they did get excited by this photo. Now, at the end of the experiment, they were told, these men who did get excited, that what had happened to them physically, and they denied it. So they showed them the graph, the proof, and they still denied it. And that's where their hatred comes from, their hatred of gays. They are closeted gays. But you don't tell these men that they are closeted, because if you did, they'd turn on you and probably try to kill you, because they're quite tough, a lot of these men. A bit on the psychopathic side. Women are pretty easy when it comes to gay men. And she was quite adamant that it's a disgusting perversion, it's against God, etc., etc., as they go on and on and on, these people. They always like to bring God in. Makes them think, it gives them the higher ground in their mind when they're arguing like that. You can't be right, God says the other to be true. So anyway, at the end, I told her what happened. They did it. They after years and years of looking at the brains of straight men and gay men, effeminate men, they found in the effeminate homosexual, they found it was a woman's mind. And the difference between a man, apart from the size, normally the woman's mind is much lighter weight, because they're coming from a smaller body, I guess. But the real difference is a little sliver inside that brain, which was found out, as I said, after years and years of study. And that proved that it was a woman's brain inside a effeminate homosexual's body. And then, of course, you've got the opposite. You've got the man's brain in the woman's body, the gay women. So gay women are actually men quite often, and gay men are actually quite often women. In Thailand, it's really taken off. Let's say about 30 years ago, it was very rare to see a girl who was saying that she's a boy and a boy who's saying that she's a girl. But now they're popping out everywhere. The girls are called tomboys, and really they walk around dressed like boys and they behave like boys and they're into girls only. And it seems to have become some sort of disease over there, and people have accepted them because there's so many now. In the past they were shocked, but not anymore. It's accepted. This is the trouble. People don't go on, this is right and this is wrong. If something becomes ubiquitous, people accept it eventually. So they can accept wrongdoing. Hence a lot of my videos, which are against factory farming, vivisection and slaughterhouses. But anyway, getting on to another theme there, aren't we? So let's get back. Yeah. Homosexuality in most parts of the world, and we're talking about homosexuality in men, not girls, has quite often been made illegal in law. Look at the laws in England. I think it was about 100 years it stood homosexuality as being illegal. And it was only, I think, in 1967 when it was repealed. But of course it's going to take a long time before people really get to accept it. Society gets to accept it in general. It's getting better for them, but still. Now, from my point of view as a heterosexual, I love homosexuals. I mean, if all the men in the world want to become homosexual tomorrow, they have my blessing. Why, as a heterosexual, would I want to stop them? Because if all the men become homosexuals, what's girls going to do? I said, well, I'm still straight. I haven't become homosexual. They're all going to come to me, aren't they? They're going to be lining up around the block. He's the only man in the world who's straight. Great. So that's why I was always suspicious about these men who hate homosexuals. But when I say they hate homosexuals, they normally hate homosexual men, not the women. They're being prejudiced again. But they found that they found that homosexuality is actually normal. It's if you look at all creatures, including insects, 10% of all creatures are homosexual. Oh, I bet you didn't know that, but yeah. Now that should change your mind about homosexuality straight away, because that makes it normal. But being a heterosexual man, unless you look like Tom Cruise or a few of these other fellas I met in life who seem to have something about them which the girls, they're just like babe magnets. Unless you're like them, you're going to be like me, and it's going to be a tough job being a heterosexual fella because the girls aren't interested. I have to do the running, and you know I've got to accept that most girls are going to tell me where to go. No, it's in my 70 years, I've only been chatted up once, and I was about 45 years of age at the time. I was in Florida at one of these parks. It was all to do with SeaWorld, I think it was. And a girl came up who worked there. She was about 17 or 18. And she said, very good looking girl actually. She said, have you got a girlfriend? And unfortunately, it was one of those few times that I did have a girlfriend. And I said, yeah, she's over there. I said, oh, what a pity, and walked off. Only one time. Now, I know girls who get chatted up all the time by women. Can you imagine? They get chatted up by perverted women, by gay women. And yet, straight women, only one woman's ever chatted me up in my life. That is so depressing. And it really just shows the perversion of our society, where straight women are being chatted up by women. In fact, come to think of it, I've been chatted up by more men than women. It's a perverted society which is brought upon us by religion. I'm always having a go at religion, aren't I? Because they are behind a lot of things. A lot of our behaviour is to do with religion. Of course, the reason why religion has these rules and regulation, it comes from feelings. If you look at animal society in general, they all have a problem with sex. They really do. Normally, for instance, within the monkeys, a troop of monkeys, you get the top monkey, the top male monkey. He gets all the girls to himself. He's got can't say the word, harem of monkey girls. Sounds a bit odd, doesn't it? Monkey girls. But yeah, he's got a harem of monkey girls all to himself, and all the other monkeys are frustrated. And because they're frustrated, they're always having fights and everything. And if he ever vanishes, goes somewhere, they all go rushing over to the girls and more fights break out, of course. Really, I'm not joking. This is true. And of course, that must be happening throughout all the other animal kingdoms. But there is another species of monkeys where they have sexual freedom. They don't have any sexual hang-ups. Everyone has sex with everyone. We would think it quite perverted, I'm sure, but yeah, it's true. Everyone has sex with everyone. There is no jealousy. And because there's no jealousy, there's no fights. They don't fight. They're very peaceful monkeys, this type of monkey, this troop. Because they're all having sex with each other. I think it's wise to think about things like that. You know, so I when I was in Thailand, I heard about two people getting caught having sex in the sea. They were standing up, a man and a woman having sex in the sea. People knew they was having sex because the way they were behaving, and they were arrested on the spot, and they were accused of behaving like animals, but they wasn't behaving like animals at all. They was behaving like humans. People don't realise that. Quite often we say, don't behave like an animal, but it's not true. Quite often we're behaving like humans. Sexual freedom is to the individual humans. You'll find freedom normally in sex is only for gay women. They have normally total sexual freedom, gay women. But straight men and heterosexual women, no, forget it. We have to follow very strict rules which are laid down by religious people because of their animalistic feelings. As we're on the subject of sex, I think it's wise to realise that prostitution is not behaving like an animal, but the opposite. It's behaving like a human. I've yet to see a dog in high heels with a miniskirt and a handbag on her shoulder, standing on a street corner, saying, "Hello, ducky, you want a good time?" Now, the more freedom I find, the more civilized a society, or the more intelligent a society, the more sexual freedom we have. And of course, the opposite is just as true. The more backward a society, the less sexual freedom they have. But I once lost all my sexual feelings when I was with my girlfriend, who I love, and I still love her, in fact, even though she's dead now. It was quite a surprise not to have any feelings whatsoever sexually towards her. And I realised at that point, that the human body, whether it be a man or a woman, is not sexual at all. Doesn't look sexy. That's why I take no interest in a female dog or a female this or a female that. No, what happens, as a man, a straight man that is, if we see a girl that we fancy, it triggers some chemical, no doubt. Triggers a chemical in our brain, no doubt, and that's called feeling sexual. And of course, the same thing happens with the girl if she sees a man that she fancies. But yeah, it's that triggering. It's all within us. It's not coming from that person. They're just the trigger, the person. But the actual thing is happening within us, within our brain. This chemical reaction that makes us so excited. But when you get to the state that I was in, where I felt absolutely no sexual feelings whatsoever, suddenly the chains are cut, and you see things totally different when it comes to sex. And that's what happened to me at the time. So I quite often reflect on what I felt, where I felt absolutely nothing. And I realised the truth, as I've said, about sex. And yet people put so much emphasis on sex, don't they? You've got to be a certain age between the two of you. You can't be such a huge gap between the ages, we now say these days. It hasn't always been that way, of course. I mean, people would be shocked if I went out with a girl in her 20s. Even in her 30s, they probably would be shocked. And they would probably call me a dirty old man. But the truth is, all my girls have never got older. I've got older, but all my girls have stayed around the 20 years of age. And I've gotten really well with them. I don't get on well with older women. There's something that happens to older people. They change, and I just don't get on with that type of person. So yeah, I'm not suddenly going after young women. I'm just not changing. I still like fast motorbikes, fast cars, fast women. Nothing's changed. I've been a vegetarian since I was 27. I've loved animals all my life. I don't smoke or drink, never have. I'm just a boring person. That's why I'm still going out with 20-year-old girls. Not in England, in Thailand. Well, I've given you a totally different view on our society now. And it is closer to the truth than what we currently have, the way we think about sex and about relationships.